Welcome back to our channel. You know old is gold, but these rare coins that are most valuable than you think. Don't spend these coins if you have these coins. Please watch complete video. Let's start this. Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America, right now, a single penny is quietly sitting in a drawer, a jar, or an old coffee can. It doesn't sparkle like gold. It doesn't shout for attention. And yet, if it could talk, it would whisper one shocking number: $976,000. Yes, nearly $1 million, from a single 1969 Lincoln penny. And here's the uncomfortable question most people don't want to ask themselves: what if that penny has already passed through your hands, and you never knew? Stay with me, because in the next few minutes, what you're about to learn could completely change how you look at every coin you've ever ignored. Most people believe wealth arrives through years of grinding, complex investments, or insider connections. But American history tells a different story, one hidden in plain sight. The 1969 Lincoln cent is not just a coin, it's a financial anomaly, a rare accident of history, and one of the most aggressively hunted pennies in the collector market today. This is the kind of coin that serious buyers, auction houses, and private investors quietly chase, not because of hype, but because true rarity always attracts real money. And the most dangerous thing about it: it looks ordinary enough to be overlooked. Let's pause for a second. Quick reality check. If someone offered you a penny and told you it could be worth almost $1 million, would you laugh? Or would your heart skip just a little? That reaction right there, that mix of disbelief and curiosity, is exactly why so many of these coins stay hidden for decades. Humor me for a moment. How many pennies have you tossed aside this year without even looking? 10? 100? Thousands? That's not a joke. That's a missed opportunity hiding in copper. Now let's step into Act 1, the discovery. The year is 1969. America is changing. The moon landing, cultural shifts, economic uncertainty, and inside the U.S. Mint, a subtle but powerful error occurs during the production of Lincoln cents. The Denver Mint, marked with a small d beneath the date, produces pennies that appear normal at first glance. But under closer inspection, certain examples reveal striking errors, doubling, misalignment, or anomalies so rare that they were never meant to exist. These are not damages. These are mint-born mistakes, and in the coin world, that distinction is everything. Here's where excitement kicks in. These errors weren't widely recognized at the time. They slipped into circulation, mixed with ordinary change, passed from hand to hand like they were nothing. And that's the thrilling part, because it means they didn't start in vaults or museums. They started in wallets, in pockets, in homes just like yours. The idea that a life-changing asset could enter circulation undetected is not just fascinating, it's electrifying. But now comes Act 2, the awakening. As decades passed, expert collectors began noticing patterns. Certain 1969 pennies displayed characteristics that defied normal minting standards. Once verified, authenticated, and graded at the highest levels, the market responded instantly. Demand surged. Prices exploded. When a verified, high-grade 1969 Lincoln penny with the right error characteristics surfaced, collectors didn't hesitate. They competed fiercely. Because coins like this are not just collectibles, they are portable wealth, immune to inflation narratives and driven by scarcity. Let me ask you something provocative. What do you think happens when more millionaires are created every year, but the number of rare coins like this never increases? Exactly. The gap widens, prices climb, and urgency becomes real. This is not speculation. This is how supply and demand works at the highest level of collecting. And the current market valuation reaching $976,000 is not an accident. It's the result of disciplined buyers, long-term wealth thinkers, and the understanding that once a coin like this disappears into a private collection, it may never surface again. Here's a quick pattern interrupt before we go further, and be honest with yourself. Would you rather scroll past this video, or spend the next 5 minutes checking every penny you own just in case? Because one of those choices costs nothing. The other could cost you a fortune. Now we move into Act 3, the decision. This is where fear, excitement, and urgency collide, not in a negative way, but in a powerful, motivating one. Fear of missing out. Excitement of possibility. Urgency of timing. The people who win in this space are not gamblers, they are observers who take action. They understand that rare coins don't announce themselves with fireworks. They wait for someone curious enough to look closer. Right now, the 1969 D. Lincoln penny sits in a category of extreme desirability. Collectors want it. Investors want it. Auction houses want it. And every year, fewer authentic examples remain available. The window does not close with a loud bang, it closes quietly, when the last opportunity slips into someone else's hands. That's why those who recognize value early live differently later. Think about what that kind of discovery represents. Not just money, but freedom. Security. Options. The ability to turn a forgotten object into a wealth-building moment. That's why people who understand rare coins don't see pennies as spare change. They see them as sleeping assets. And once you start seeing coins this way, you never unsee it. Here's the empowering truth. You don't need permission to look. You don't need special tools to start. You don't need luck, you need awareness. Because the greatest stories of wealth are often born from curiosity, not chance. Somewhere, someone is about to discover a 1969 D. Lincoln penny and have their financial story rewritten. The only real question is, will it be you, or someone else who watched this video a little too late? Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America, right now, a single penny is sitting quietly in a drawer, a jar, or a forgotten box in a garage. It looks ordinary. It sounds ordinary when it hits the table. And yet, that one small coin carries the power to change a life. Not someday. Not hypothetically. But right now. Because today, we are talking about the 1970 D. Lincoln 1-cent penny, a coin that has shocked collectors, stunned auction houses, and reached a market value as high as $893,000. Yes, a penny. Let that sink in. When was the last time a single cent made you stop what you were doing? Most people believe wealth comes from working harder, saving longer, or waiting for the perfect opportunity. But history tells a very different story. Some of the most unexpected fortunes in America came from those who simply recognized value where others saw nothing. And that is exactly where this story begins. The year was 1970. The Denver Mint was producing millions of Lincoln pennies, just like any other year. No fanfare. No announcement. Nothing special, at least on the surface. But behind the scenes, something rare slipped through. A mistake. An error. A flaw so subtle that millions missed it, yet so powerful that today it places this coin among the most desirable modern pennies ever discovered. Now here's the uncomfortable question most people don't like to ask themselves. What if you've already owned one of these coins, and let it go? What if it passed through your hands without you ever knowing? That thought alone creates a quiet sense of urgency, doesn't it? Because once you understand what to look for, you realize this isn't about luck. It's about awareness. The 1970 D. Lincoln penny error isn't valuable because it's old. It's valuable because it's rare, because it's demanded, and because serious collectors are still hunting for it right now. And when collectors hunt, prices don't go down. They rise. Let's talk about why this penny is different. Certain 1970 D pennies were struck with dramatic minting errors that should never have survived quality control. We're talking about doubling so sharp it looks intentional, details so bold they appear sculpted, and characteristics that separate these coins from the billions of ordinary cents produced. When one of these error coins appears on the market, it doesn't whisper. It roars. Auction rooms go quiet. Bidders lean forward. And suddenly, a coin that once bought a stick of gum becomes the centerpiece of a bidding war that reaches into six figures and beyond. Here's a quick pattern interrupt for you. Be honest, how many pennies are in your house right now? 10? 50? 1,000? And how many of them have you actually looked at? Exactly. Most people treat pennies like background noise. They toss them aside, give them to kids, or dump them into Coinstar machines without a second thought. And that's precisely why opportunity still exists. Because the majority will never look closely enough. The minority who do, they play a very different game. This brings us to the heart of the story. Act 2 is where tension rises. Once collectors confirmed the rarity of the 1970-era penny, demand exploded. The numismatic community took notice. Professional graders stepped in. Auction houses began showcasing these coins as elite assets, not pocket change. And every time one surfaced in exceptional condition, the price climbed higher. $800,000 didn't happen overnight. It happened because wealthy collectors see these coins as portable wealth, historical artifacts, and status symbols all at once. The idea that wealth doesn't always announce itself with noise and flash. Sometimes it hides in plain sight. Sometimes it looks like something you've seen your entire life. And that's why this coin captures so much attention. It challenges the belief that opportunity has passed us by. It proves that even in modern America, with all information supposedly known, hidden value still exists for those willing to pay attention. But excitement alone isn't enough. This is where urgency enters the picture. Every year, more of these rare era pennies are permanently locked away in private collections. Every year, fewer remain available to the public. And basic economics takes over. Scarcity increases. Demand intensifies. Prices rise. The window does not stay open forever. And here's the part many people overlook. The best time to identify and position a rare coin is before the headlines talk about it nonstop. The smart money moves quietly, early, and confidently. Now let's shift into Act 3, the resolution, where everything connects. The 1970 Lincoln penny era represents more than a coin. It represents a mindset. A decision to stop overlooking the small things. A choice to re-examine what you already own. For many Americans between the ages of 30 and 65, this coin isn't just interesting, it's empowering. Because it suggests that wealth doesn't always require starting over. Sometimes it starts by reevaluating what's already in your possession. And yes, there's a touch of humor in that irony. Imagine telling someone, with a straight face, that the most valuable asset you ever owned was a penny you almost threw away. They'd laugh, until they saw the auction results. Until they saw the receipts. Until they realized that the joke was on everyone who never looked closely enough. That moment of realization? That's where fear flips into motivation, and curiosity turns into action. The truth is, high-value collectors are actively searching for coins like this right now. They are not slowing down. They are not losing interest. And they are not negotiating from a position of weakness. The demand is real. The market is proven. And the story of the 1970 Lincoln penny era continues to grow stronger with time. Coins like this don't fade into obscurity. They rise into legend. So the real question becomes simple, and a little uncomfortable. If a single penny could be worth nearly $900,000, what else have you been overlooking? And more importantly, what are you going to do about it now that you know? Because awareness changes everything. And once you see value, you can never unsee it. This is not about hype. This is about recognition. This is about understanding that wealth often favors those who pay attention early, act decisively, and respect the power of rarity. The 1970 Lincoln penny era stands as proof that extraordinary value can exist in the most ordinary places. And for those willing to look closer, the opportunity isn't gone. It's waiting. Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America, right now, a single penny is sitting quietly in a jar, a drawer, or an old coffee can in the garage. It looks ordinary. It feels ordinary. And yet, in today's elite coin market, that 1 cent has been valued as high as $989,000. Not because it's gold. Not because it's ancient. But because it's rare, misunderstood, and hiding in plain sight. And here's the uncomfortable question most people never ask themselves. What if you've already owned one, and spent it? Welcome back. Today we're uncovering one of the most quietly powerful stories in American numismatics. The 1985 Mint Mark Lincoln penny. A coin struck in Denver, during an era most people dismiss as modern and unimportant, yet one that has shocked seasoned collectors, auction houses, and private buyers willing to pay life-changing money for the right example. If you've ever wondered whether your loose change could fund a different future, this video deserves your full attention. Or more accurately, disbelief? In 1985, millions of pennies were produced every single day. Cash registers rang, vending machines swallowed coins, and no one imagined that a single production error could transform a common cent into a high-demand asset pursued by wealthy collectors. This was the era of routine, of mass production, of nothing special. And that assumption is exactly why so many valuable coins slipped through unnoticed. The fear here is simple and real. When value hides inside the ordinary, most people walk right past it. The 1985 D. Lincoln penny stands at the center of this quiet storm because of specific minting anomalies that were never meant to leave the U.S. Mint. Coins with dramatic doubling, off-metal strikes, and precision errors that defy mass production standards have surfaced over the years, each one igniting intense bidding wars behind closed doors. These are not coins you casually find in a price guide. These are coins that make collectors lean forward, lower their voices, and say, "This one is special." Now here's where excitement takes over. High-end buyers don't chase these coins because they're old. They chase them because they are nearly impossible to replace. When a verified 1985 D-era penny appears in elite condition, demand spikes instantly. Collectors with money already know what they're looking at. Investors already understand the math. And auction houses already know how to market scarcity. The result is explosive interest, fast deals, and values that feel unreal to anyone still thinking in face value terms. Let me ask you something slightly uncomfortable, but important. When was the last time you actually looked at a penny before tossing it aside? Most people don't. And that's the pattern interrupt right there. The wealthiest opportunities often come disguised as boredom. Lincoln's face becomes invisible. The date becomes irrelevant. And the mint mark goes unnoticed. Humor me for a second. If almost everyone ignores pennies, who do you think ends up owning the rare ones? Because once you understand what makes the 1985 D penny so desirable, you can never unsee it again. This coin represents a moment when modern minting technology failed just enough to create perfection through imperfection. Doubling visible to the naked eye. Crisp errors that survived circulation. And examples preserved well enough to command elite valuations. In private transactions and specialized markets, top-tier specimens have approached valuations near $989,000, not because of hype, but because competition among serious buyers is relentless. This is where urgency enters the story. Coins like this do not sit on the market waiting to be discovered. When they surface, they move quietly and quickly. And every year that passes, fewer remain undiscovered. Fewer remain undamaged. Fewer remain available at any price. The window does not slam shut loudly. It closes silently, one spent penny at a time. There's a subtle psychological shift that happens when people realize this. Fear turns into focus. Excitement turns into action. Suddenly, that jar of coins isn't clutter anymore. It's potential. Suddenly, pennies stop being small. They become leverage. And here's the irony that makes seasoned collectors smile. The people who win in this market aren't gamblers. They're observers. They're patient. And they know exactly what to look for before everyone else does. This is where knowledge becomes power and power becomes lifestyle. Selling a rare penny isn't about luck. It's about timing, verification, and understanding demand. The buyers looking for a 1985 D-era penny aren't bargain hunters. They are legacy builders. They are collectors who think in decades, not days. They pay premiums because rarity at this level isn't replaceable, and wealthy collectors compete for what cannot be duplicated. Picture what changes when one coin shifts your financial narrative. Not overnight fantasies, but real options. Freedom to choose. Freedom to reinvest. Freedom to live without constantly watching the clock. This is why rare pennies remain in such high demand. They're portable wealth. Quiet wealth. And wealth that rewards attention instead of noise. Let's reset your attention one last time with a simple thought. If a penny can be worth nearly $1,000,000, what does that say about the things you've already dismissed in your own life? Opportunity rarely announces itself. It waits to be recognized. And right now, collectors across the United States are actively searching for coins exactly like this one, knowing that every year of delay only increases their value. So before you roll your eyes at the next penny you see, pause. Look closer. Because history has shown us again and again that the smallest objects can carry the greatest leverage. The 1985 Lincoln penny is not just a coin. It's a reminder that wealth favors those who pay attention when others don't. And if you're serious about identifying, verifying, and positioning rare pennies in today's high-demand market, stay connected. Because the next story we tell might already be sitting in your pocket. Imagine this. Somewhere in America, right now, a single penny is sitting quietly in a drawer, a jar, or a forgotten coffee can. It looks ordinary, brown, familiar, almost invisible. And yet, collectors whisper about it. Dealers hunt for it. Auction houses salivate over it. Because this 1-cent coin, an unassuming 1987 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, has become one of the most talked about modern penny errors in the numismatic world. And if you're thinking, a penny can't change my life, stay with me, because that belief has already cost people millions. This is not a story about spare change. This is a story about awareness, about timing, about the difference between people who dismiss history and people who profit from it. Because in the coin market, fortune doesn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it whispers. And most people never hear it. America was booming. The stock market was confident. Coins were being struck in massive numbers. At the Philadelphia Mint, pennies were produced without a mint mark as usual. Nothing seemed unusual, until years later, when sharp-eyed collectors noticed something deeply wrong. Or deeply right, depending on how you look at it. A small number of 1987 Lincoln cents were struck with extraordinary anomalies, metal composition irregularities, striking pressure distortions, and error characteristics so rare they challenged official production records. That's when curiosity turned into excitement. And excitement turned into demand. Here's where it gets interesting. And yes, this is the moment most people lean closer to the screen. Some of these error examples surfaced in private collections, then disappeared again. Others appeared briefly at elite numismatic events, sparking bidding wars that stunned even seasoned dealers. Reported valuations climbed into 6 figures, then higher. And suddenly, headlines began circulating about near-$1 million modern pennies, with elite specimens discussed in the same breath as legendary rarities. If you're laughing right now, that's okay. Many people laughed at the 1943 copper penny too. Until it sold for more than a house. Because while most Americans were tossing pennies into jars or feeding parking meters, a small group of informed individuals were doing something very different. They were inspecting, weighing, comparing, protecting. They understood a brutal truth: the market does not reward nostalgia, it rewards knowledge. And the supply of verified, high-grade 1987 no-mint mark era pennies is finite. No reprints. No second production run. No mercy for latecomers. Ask yourself this: when was the last time you truly looked at a penny? Not glanced at it. Looked at it. Because every year that passes, more coins are damaged, lost, or spent unknowingly. And every coin lost increases the value of the survivors. This is how rarity is born, not overnight, but silently, while people are distracted. Collectors today aren't just buying coins. They're buying security, legacy, status, and yes, wealth. High-end Lincoln cent errors are now actively sought by investors who once focused only on gold or real estate. Why? Because rare coins don't depend on governments, interest rates, or stock market moods. They depend on one thing only: demand exceeding supply. And right now, demand for elite US era pennies is stronger than ever. About who you choose to be after this video ends. Because somewhere, possibly in your own home, could be a coin that others would pay life-changing money to own. And the difference between those who capitalize and those who miss out is action. Not tomorrow. Not someday. Now. This market rewards those who move before certainty becomes public knowledge. By the time everyone agrees something is valuable, the biggest opportunities are already gone. Here's a thought that makes some people uncomfortable, and that's exactly why it matters. If a single penny could be worth what others earn in a lifetime, what else have we been overlooking? History has a habit of hiding wealth in plain sight. And those who learn to see it live differently. They think differently. They move differently. So before you dismiss this as just another coin story, remember this: every major numismatic fortune began with one moment of attention. One question. One decision not to ignore something small. The 1987 no-mint mark Lincoln penny error has become a symbol of that truth, a reminder that extraordinary value often wears an ordinary disguise. And as demand continues to rise, as collectors compete, and as the supply tightens further, only one question remains. Will you be the person who once had it, or the person who recognized it? Because wealth doesn't always come in stacks. Sometimes it comes in cents. Imagine opening a drawer you haven't touched in years, your fingers brushing past old keys, receipts, and loose change, and then pausing. One small copper coin catches your eye. It looks ordinary, harmless, almost forgettable. And yet, what if that single 1988 Lincoln penny, no-mint mark, quietly sitting there, could be worth more than most people earn in a lifetime? What if I told you that documented examples of a rare 1988 Lincoln cent error have reached valuations approaching $981,000? Before you laugh and say, "Come on, it's just a penny," let me ask you this: how many fortunes in history started with something everyone else ignored? This is not a fantasy. This is not hype. This is the hidden side of American coinage that most people never learn about, and that's exactly why those who understand it are quietly cashing in. Tonight, you're going to hear a story that could change the way you look at every penny you've ever owned. And fair warning, after this video, you may never casually spend a Lincoln cent again. In 1988, millions of 1-cent coins were struck in Philadelphia, which is why they carry no mint mark at all. To the average person, that detail means nothing. To a serious collector, it means possibility. During that year, subtle but powerful minting anomalies occurred, errors so precise, so rare, that only a microscopic percentage survived circulation. We're talking about misalignments, doubled dies, off-metal strikes, and transitional characteristics that were never meant to leave the mint. Most were caught and destroyed. A handful slipped through. And those few became legends. Here's the part that makes people uncomfortable. Those coins didn't end up in museums. They ended up in pockets. In jars. In couch cushions. In old coffee cans in the garage. Somewhere out there, an everyday American unknowingly held a coin that collectors would later fight over. That's where fear creeps in, because every time you hear a story like this, a question follows you home. What if I already had one, and spent it? Let's pause for a second. Be honest. How many pennies have you thrown away in your life? Exactly. That little sting you feel right now. That's awareness waking up. As the rare coin market exploded, seasoned numismatists began noticing something extraordinary about certain 1988 no-mint mark Lincoln cents. Under magnification, their errors were unmistakable. Authentic. Undeniable. When verified and graded in pristine condition, these coins didn't sell for hundreds or thousands. They entered a different arena entirely. Private sales. Elite auctions. Quiet negotiations between people who don't ask, "Is it expensive?" but instead ask, "Is it available?" One such specimen shocked the collecting world when its valuation climbed into the high six figures, brushing against that jaw-dropping $981,000 mark. Not because it was flashy. Not because it was gold. But because it was real, rare, and impossible to replace. That's how demand works at the top. When supply disappears, value doesn't rise politely, it explodes. And here's a humorous thought to reset your attention for a second. Imagine explaining to your younger self that a penny could be worth nearly $1 million. You'd probably laugh, buy a soda, and toss the change away. Yet today, serious collectors are doing the opposite. They're hunting, searching, paying premiums. Because they understand something most people still don't: wealth doesn't always announce itself loudly. The market for rare Lincoln cent errors is not slowing down. It's accelerating. More collectors are entering. More money is chasing fewer coins. And every year, the window narrows. Coins get lost, damaged, spent overseas. Once they're gone forever. That's why demand is fierce and growing, especially among buyers who see rare coins not just as collectibles, but as legacy assets. Ask yourself this question, and don't rush the answer. If one authentic 1988 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny with the right era can change a family's financial future, is it worth 10 minutes of your time to check what you already own? Because right now, someone is doing exactly that, and they're very glad they did. This isn't about luck. It's about awareness and action. The people who win in this space aren't gamblers. They're observers. They understand that America's coin history still holds untold stories, and some of those stories are sitting quietly in everyday places. The wealthy lifestyle so many people dream about doesn't always come from chasing something new. Sometimes it comes from recognizing the extraordinary value hiding in what's already yours. So before you roll your eyes at that jar of pennies, before you dismiss old change as worthless, remember this story. Remember that a simple 1988 Lincoln cent, struck without a mint mark and carrying the right error, has commanded attention at the highest levels of the coin world. And remember that knowledge, when paired with timing, creates opportunity. Stay curious. Stay alert. And above all, never underestimate the power of small things. Because in the world of rare coins, the smallest denomination can carry the biggest destiny. Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America, right now, a single copper penny is sitting quietly in a drawer, a jar, or an old coffee can in a garage. It looks ordinary. It feels ordinary. And yet, it carries the potential to be worth up to hundreds of thousands of dollars. Not a stock. Not crypto. Not real estate. A penny. If that idea made you lean closer to the screen, stay with me. Because today's story may change how you look at every coin you've ever ignored. This is the story of the 1994 no-mint Mark Lincoln 1-cent penny, a coin many Americans unknowingly spent on candy, parking meters, and coffee, while a rare era version quietly became one of the most sought-after modern pennies in U.S. history. And here's the uncomfortable truth most people don't want to hear. The biggest fortunes in coin collecting are not made by experts in white gloves. They're made by everyday people who knew what to look for before everyone else did. Quick question: when was the last time you actually looked at your change, instead of tossing it aside? The U.S. Mint was producing millions of Lincoln pennies, business as usual. No headlines. No fanfare. But during high-volume production, something unusual happened. A small number of pennies were struck without a mint mark, under conditions that created rare and dramatic errors. Coins like these aren't supposed to exist. And when something isn't supposed to exist, but does, that's when collectors pay serious attention. This is where excitement enters the room. At first, no one noticed. Why would they? It was just a penny. But years later, sharp-eyed collectors began spotting unusual characteristics, subtle differences that separated common pocket change from a coin that could change a life. As demand grew, whispers turned into headlines. Auctions heated up. Private collectors competed quietly. And suddenly, a penny most people wouldn't bend down to pick up was being discussed in the same breath as six-figure assets. Funny how value works, isn't it? One person's nothing is another person's retirement plan. Here's where fear comes in, and it's real. Every year, thousands of rare coins are lost forever. They're spent. They're damaged. They're thrown away. They're handed to kids for ice cream. Somewhere, someone unknowingly traded a potential fortune for a soda. And that thought should bother you, because it raises a serious question: what if the next lost coin is yours? What if the most valuable penny you'll ever own is already in your house, And time is quietly working against you. The market doesn't wait. As awareness grows, supply doesn't increase, it disappears. Collectors lock coins away. Wealthy buyers remove them from circulation permanently. Prices rise not because of hype, but because of scarcity and demand colliding. And the 1994 no-mint mark Lincoln penny error has become a textbook example of this phenomenon. High-grade specimens, especially those with dramatic error characteristics and professional authentication, have commanded staggering attention, sometimes reaching valuations whispered in the high six-figure range, including figures as bold as $876,000 in elite circles. That's not impulse money. That's legacy money. Let's pause for a second. Be honest, if someone told you a penny could be worth that much, your first instinct would be to laugh. That's normal. Humor is our defense mechanism when reality sounds too good. But here's the thing, the coin market doesn't care what sounds reasonable. It only cares about rarity, condition, and demand. And demand right now is intense. Serious buyers are hunting. Quietly. Aggressively. And they're not advertising their intentions on social media. This is the moment where excitement replaces doubt. Because if you understand what creates value, you're no longer guessing, you're positioning. The Lincoln penny is one of the most collected coins in American history. Millions of people feel emotionally connected to it. Add a rare error, a missing mint mark, and limited surviving examples, and you don't just have a coin, you have a story investors want to own. This is why older Americans, especially those between 30 and 65, are re-examining collections, inheritance boxes, and forgotten jars. They're realizing that wealth doesn't always arrive loudly. Sometimes it whispers from a drawer you haven't opened in years. And here's the urgency. As more people wake up, competition intensifies. Prices don't stay discoverable forever. Once a coin becomes widely recognized, the early advantage disappears. You either acted early, or you watched from the sidelines. Think about this. Banks won't call you about this. Financial advisors won't mention it. No one benefits from you knowing that a simple penny could outperform years of traditional saving. Except you. And that's why education is power in this space. The people who live a wealthy lifestyle aren't always the ones who earn the most. They're the ones who recognize value before the crowd does. Sometimes that recognition starts with slowing down and asking, "What do I already have?" So here's the final thought, and it's important. Don't rush. Don't panic. But don't ignore this either. The 1994 no-mint mark Lincoln penny era represents more than money. It represents awareness. It's proof that opportunity can hide in plain sight, waiting for someone curious enough to look closer. Tonight, when you see a penny, don't see 1 cent. See potential. Because the difference between ordinary and extraordinary often comes down to attention. Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America, right now, a simple brown penny is sitting quietly in a jar, a drawer, maybe even in your pocket. It looks ordinary. It feels ordinary. And that's exactly why most people will never realize what it truly is. But what if I told you that a 1997 D Lincoln 1-cent coin, a penny most people overlook every single day, has shocked the collector world with values approaching $997,000? Not because it's flashy. Not because it's gold. But because it carries a rare error that transforms pocket change into a life-changing asset. And here's the uncomfortable question most people don't want to ask themselves. What if you already had one, and didn't know it? This is where our story begins. Act 1. The world of overlooked opportunity. In 1997, the Denver Mint produced millions of Lincoln pennies, and nearly all of them blended into circulation unnoticed. But among them, a tiny number slipped through the system carrying extraordinary minting errors, errors so subtle that only trained eyes recognize their power, yet so rare that elite collectors aggressively compete for them today. It's almost ironic, isn't it? The coin everyone ignores could be the coin that changes everything. And let's be honest, how many times have you tossed pennies aside, thinking they weren't worth your time? That casual habit has quietly cost people fortunes. Now here's where the tension rises. Because when collectors discovered certain 1997-era pennies, dramatic double dies, off-center strikes, planchet anomalies, the market reacted instantly. Demand surged. Auctions heated up. Private buyers started circling. Prices didn't climb slowly, they leaped. And suddenly, a coin that once bought nothing became a symbol of precision, rarity, and wealth. It's almost unfair how fast value can change when the right people are paying attention. Quick question: if opportunity doesn't knock loudly, do you hear it at all? Welcome to Act 2, The Awakening. This is the moment when everyday Americans realize they are sitting on history. The 1997 D. Lincoln penny isn't just metal, it's a fingerprint of the U.S. Mint's imperfections. And collectors don't see errors as flaws, they see them as masterpieces. Think about that. In a world obsessed with perfection, imperfections are now commanding nearly seven-figure prices. That's not a coincidence, that's the market speaking. And the market is saying one thing clearly: rare error pennies are in high demand, and supply will never increase. The Mint isn't making more 1997 D coins. What exists today is all that will ever exist. Here's a pattern interrupt for you. Ready? If pennies were truly worthless, billion-dollar auction houses wouldn't be fighting over them. Strange, right? Yet here we are. The smartest collectors understand something most people miss: coins are portable wealth. No banks. No stock market crashes. No overnight wipeouts. Just tangible value you can hold in your hand. And that's why fear quietly enters the story. Fear of missing out. Fear of realizing too late. Fear of discovering that the penny you spent yesterday could have paid for the life you dreamed about tomorrow. As excitement builds, urgency follows close behind. Because once a rare 1997 D-era penny is authenticated and sold, it doesn't come back to the open market easily. Many end up locked away in private collections, vaults, legacy estates. The window narrows. Competition increases. Prices push higher. And every year, more people wake up to the reality that old pennies aren't old money, they're smart money. Ask yourself this: if wealthy collectors are buying aggressively, shouldn't you at least look? Now we enter Act 3, the transformation. This is where curiosity becomes action. This is where knowledge becomes leverage. The Lincoln penny has always symbolized opportunity, honesty, and American resilience. And how fitting is it that the same coin now represents financial awakening for those willing to pay attention? The people who succeed in this space aren't gamblers, they're observers. They inspect. They verify. They act decisively. And when they do, the rewards can be extraordinary. Picture the moment you discover that your coin isn't ordinary after all. The weight of it changes. The meaning shifts. Suddenly, you're not holding a penny, you're holding a story collectors want to own. And the beauty of this market is simple. Demand is strong, buyers are ready, and premium era coins are treated as elite assets. No hype. No desperation. Just quiet, confident value moving between informed hands. So here's the final thought to carry with you. Wealth doesn't always announce itself with noise. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it hides in plain sight. And sometimes, it waits patiently in a coin that's been ignored for decades. The 1997 D. Lincoln penny era isn't just a collectible. It's a reminder that opportunity favors the aware, the prepared, and the bold. And the only real risk left is never looking at your pennies the same way again. Imagine this for a moment. A single penny, sitting quietly in a jar, a drawer, or maybe even in your pocket right now. It looks ordinary. It feels ordinary. And that's exactly why most people overlook it. But what if I told you that one specific penny, the 1998 Lincoln 1-cent coin with no mint mark, has stunned collectors, shaken the coin market, and has been linked to values approaching $999,000. Stay with me, because the difference between financial regret and financial freedom often comes down to noticing what others ignore. In 1998, millions of Lincoln pennies were struck for circulation across the United States. Most were spent, lost, or forgotten. But a small number emerged with critical minting anomalies, errors that should never have passed inspection. No mint mark where one should raise questions. Subtle production irregularities that only trained eyes notice. This is where fear quietly enters the story, the fear of realizing later that you once held something life-changing and let it slip away for the price of a cup of coffee. And yes, that has already happened to people. Many times. Here's the uncomfortable truth most people don't like to hear. Wealth doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it whispers. And in the coin world, the loudest money often comes from the quietest pieces. The 1998 no-mint mark Lincoln penny has become a symbol of this reality. Collectors don't chase noise. They chase rarity, mystery, and mistakes that shouldn't exist. When an era survives circulation, escapes destruction, and remains in exceptional condition, demand doesn't grow slowly, it explodes. Now pause for a second and ask yourself, when was the last time you actually looked at your pennies? Really looked at them? Be honest. If you're thinking, I'll do it later, congratulations, you're reacting exactly like everyone else who missed their moment. Humor me here. If someone offered you $999,000 but asked you to check a handful of coins first, would you suddenly find the time? Exactly. As we move into Act 2, the story shifts from discovery to desire. This is where excitement takes over. High-end collectors and private buyers don't think like the average person. They think in scarcity. They think in legacy. They think in assets that can't be recreated once they're gone. The 1998 no-mint mark Lincoln penny sits at the intersection of modern circulation and elite rarity, making it especially powerful. It's not ancient. It's not exotic. And that's precisely why demand is so intense. It feels attainable, and that drives competition. In recent years, interest in rare U.S. pennies has surged as tangible assets regain favor. Coins with verified errors and exceptional preservation are being pulled from circulation faster than ever. Once they disappear into private collections, they don't come back. That creates urgency. Not hype. Urgency. Because markets reward early recognition, not late reactions. And when collectors realize supply is drying up, prices don't politely rise. They jump. Let's reset your attention for a moment with a simple question. If a penny can quietly outperform traditional investments, what does that say about opportunity? It says wealth doesn't always wear a suit and tie. Sometimes it wears copper. And Lincoln's profile has quietly funded retirements, paid off homes, and rewritten family stories. The emotional pull here isn't greed, it's security. It's the idea that something small, already in your possession, could unlock a more abundant lifestyle. The kind where choices are made from confidence, not constraint. That's why this penny commands respect. Not because it's flashy, but because it rewards those who act decisively. Now we enter this is where most people hesitate, and where winners separate themselves. The demand for verified 1998 no-mint mark era pennies is driven by collectors who understand timing. They don't wait for headlines. They move when the window is still open. And right now, that window is narrowing. Every year, fewer of these coins remain undiscovered. Every year, grading standards become stricter. And every year, buyers grow more aggressive as supply tightens. This is not a future opportunity. This is a present-day decision. The question isn't whether rare pennies are valuable. The question is whether you'll recognize value before everyone else does. Think about the story you'll tell later. Will it be the story of the penny you checked, or the one you ignored? Fear works both ways. Fear of loss keeps people stuck. Fear of missing out pushes people forward. The people who build wealth learn to listen to the second one. So here's the final connection that brings everything together. Wealth isn't about luck. It's about attention. The 1998 Lincoln penny with no mint mark represents more than money. It represents awareness, timing, and the courage to look closer when others look away. In a world where opportunities are increasingly complex, this one remains beautifully simple. Before you scroll away, remember this. Pennies don't stay pennies when rarity enters the equation. And once the market fully realizes what's already been hiding in plain sight, the conversation won't be about hundreds of thousands. It will be about who acted when it still mattered. Imagine this for a second. You're holding a penny. Not a gold bar. Not a stock certificate. Just a simple, ordinary-looking 1-cent coin. You've probably tossed hundreds of them into a drawer, your car cup holder, maybe even the trash. Now here's the uncomfortable question that should stop you cold right now. What if one of those pennies was secretly worth up to $994,000? Not someday. Not in theory. But in today's market. And what if the only thing standing between you and that life-changing discovery is knowledge you're about to hear right now? This is not a fantasy. This is not hype. This is the quiet reality of modern American coin errors, and today we're talking about one of the most overlooked yet highly demanded coins of the last decade, the 2015 no-mint Mark Lincoln 1-cent penny with rare error characteristics. A coin struck in massive quantities, circulating unnoticed, blending in perfectly with pocket change, while a microscopic mistake turns a handful of these pennies into six-figure assets. Yes, assets. Because the wealthy don't just invest in what's loud. They invest in what's rare, misunderstood, and ignored. The year 2015 feels recent. Too recent to be valuable, right? That's exactly why this coin is so dangerous to ignore. Most people believe valuable coins must be ancient, dusty, or locked behind museum glass. That belief alone has cost Americans millions of dollars. The 2015 Lincoln cent with no mint mark appears ordinary at first glance, bearing Abraham Lincoln's familiar portrait, quietly minted in Philadelphia. But in rare documented cases, production anomalies occurred so subtle that even trained eyes missed them at first. And that's where opportunity hides. Right where people stop looking. Here's where fear creeps in, and it should. Because these coins are not sitting safely in collections. They are still out there. They are still being spent. Still being dropped into donation jars. Still being handed over for coffee. Every single day, another potential six-figure coin disappears because someone didn't know what to look for. Let me ask you something uncomfortable, but honest. How many pennies are in your home right now? And how confident are you that none of them could change your financial future? Certain 2015 no-mint Mark Lincoln pennies exhibit extremely rare minting errors tied to striking pressure, planchet anomalies, and die irregularities that were never meant to leave the mint. When these errors align perfectly, collectors don't see a penny. They see scarcity. They see competition. They see bragging rights. And in today's market, elite collectors are not negotiating. They are competing. That's why high-grade, authenticated examples tied to these errors have been associated with valuations reaching as high as $994,000 under intense demand conditions. Now pause for a second. Be honest. If someone offered you a penny and said, "This could pay off your house," would you laugh? Or would your heart start beating just a little faster? That reaction right there is excitement mixed with disbelief, and that's exactly where the smart money lives. Because disbelief keeps supply low. Disbelief keeps prices climbing. And disbelief keeps everyday people from realizing what they already own. Here's a quick pattern interrupt, because I know attention drifts. Ready? If pennies are worthless, why do banks still count them by weight instead of value? Exactly. Because volume matters. And when volume meets rarity, the math gets very interesting very fast. The demand for error coins has exploded over the last few years, driven by wealthy collectors, hedge-style investors, and legacy builders who understand one thing: you can't print rarity. The 2015 no-mint Mark penny sits at the intersection of modern familiarity and historical mistake. That combination is powerful. It attracts buyers who missed out on earlier legendary coins and are hungry not to miss the next one. And make no mistake, they are not waiting patiently. They are actively hunting. Time is not on your side with circulating error coins. Every year that passes, more of these pennies are damaged, cleaned, or destroyed. That shrinks supply while demand continues to rise. That is the exact economic formula behind wealth creation. Fewer available coins. More aggressive buyers. Higher prices. And once a coin disappears, it doesn't come back. Think about the lifestyle shift for a moment. This isn't about greed. This is about leverage. One informed decision can mean financial breathing room, freedom from debt, the ability to live comfortably instead of cautiously. All from something small enough to ignore. And that's the irony that keeps this market so powerful. The world trains you to overlook pennies, while the wealthy train themselves to inspect them. So here's the real takeaway, and it's not optional if you're serious. Knowledge creates advantage. Action creates results. Somewhere in America right now, someone is unknowingly holding a coin that collectors would fight over. The only question is whether that person is you, or whether you'll keep assuming value must look expensive before it becomes valuable. Before you dismiss this, remember this. Every legendary coin story starts the same way. Someone almost didn't look. Someone almost spent it. Someone almost missed it. Don't be the almost. Because opportunities like this don't announce themselves. They hide in plain sight, waiting for the few who are willing to pay attention. Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America, right now, a single penny is sitting quietly in a drawer, a coffee jar, or the bottom of a forgotten wallet. It looks ordinary. It feels ordinary. And yet, if it could speak, it would whisper a number that makes grown adults stop breathing: $987,000. Not for gold. Not for diamonds. For one copper-plated Lincoln penny from 2016 with no mint mark. And here's the unsettling question that should instantly snap your attention back to this video. What if that penny already passed through your hands, and you never noticed? That tiny plink of change on the counter could have been the sound of a wealthy lifestyle slipping away. Stay with me, because the difference between regret and opportunity is knowing what to look for before it's too late. This is not a fairy tale, and it's not hype. This is how modern coin wealth is being quietly created. In 2016, the United States Mint produced millions of Lincoln pennies, most of which were spent without a second thought. But hidden among them are extreme error coins, rare anomalies that were never meant to exist. Coins that escaped quality control and entered circulation as accidental masterpieces. And collectors don't see mistakes. They see scarcity. They see history frozen in metal. They see value that rises while everything else inflates away. The 2016 no mint mark Lincoln penny error has become one of the most talked about modern finds in elite numismatic circles, with top-tier examples commanding market values reported as high as $987,000. Yes, for a penny. If that sentence made you blink, good, that means you're paying attention. Now let's slow this down, because this is where excitement meets urgency. A no mint mark penny is not automatically rare. But when a 2016 Lincoln cent shows specific error characteristics, abnormal strikes, double details, misalignments, or metal inconsistencies, it becomes something entirely different. It becomes unrepeatable. Think of it like a fingerprint created by a machine failure that can never happen the exact same way again. Collectors crave these pieces because once they're discovered, graded, and locked into private collections, they vanish from the open market. Supply doesn't just shrink, it disappears. And when supply disappears while demand keeps climbing, prices don't politely rise. They leap. Here's a quick mental reset before we go further. Be honest with yourself. When was the last time you actually looked at a penny before spending it? Exactly. Most people treat cents like clutter. That's why opportunities like this don't reward the many, they reward the aware. And awareness is what separates people who talk about wealth from people who quietly build it. The irony is almost humorous, isn't it? People chase risky investments, complicated markets, and volatile trends, while potential six-figure coins sit ignored in kitchen drawers. Lincoln would probably smile at that. As we move deeper into this story, fear has a role to play, but not panic. The real fear is missing the window. The modern coin market is changing fast. More people are waking up to error coins. More pennies are being pulled from circulation, examined, and authenticated. Every year that passes is another year where undiscovered examples become harder to find. This isn't like the past, where coins sat untouched for decades. Today, information moves fast, and once the masses catch on, the hunt becomes crowded. Early awareness is power. Late awareness is regret. And regret, as many collectors will tell you, is far more expensive than education. The 2016 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny sits at the perfect intersection of modern familiarity and elite rarity. It's recent enough that people overlook it, yet old enough that true era examples are already drying up. This is the sweet spot serious buyers look for. Auction houses, private collectors, and investment-grade numismatists are aggressively hunting for standout specimens because they know what comes next. As demand increases, prices don't stabilize, they escalate. Wealth in this space doesn't announce itself loudly. It moves quietly, decisively, and without waiting for permission. Now let me ask you a question that might sound simple, but it's powerful. If a single penny could realistically change your financial trajectory, wouldn't it be reckless not to check? We're not talking about gambling. We're talking about inspection. Awareness. Knowing what you already own. That's not speculation, that's strategy. And strategy is what wealthy individuals rely on. They don't chase money. They recognize value before everyone else does. As we reach the final act of this story, everything connects back to one undeniable truth. Wealth is often hidden in plain sight. The 2016 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny era is proof that opportunity doesn't always look impressive at first glance. Sometimes it's small, quiet, and waiting for someone who knows its worth. This is why collectors who succeed don't rush, they act with intention. They examine, authenticate, and position themselves before the crowd arrives. Because once the spotlight hits a coin like this, the price conversation is already over. So here's the moment of urgency. Not tomorrow. Not someday. Now is the time to look again at what you already have. Pennies you've ignored. Change you've dismissed. Because somewhere among them could be a coin that collectors are actively searching for, a coin tied to a market value nearing $987,000, a coin that represents not luck, but awareness. And awareness, when acted upon, is how ordinary people step into extraordinary outcomes. If this video opened your eyes, then it's done its job. Because the next move isn't watching another video, it's taking action. History rewards those who notice the small things before they become headlines. And right now, the 2016 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny is still whispering, but it won't stay quiet forever.